Hi guys, this is Arvind here from MindMajix, and today I welcome you all to this amazing Terraform training demo. So before moving ahead, let's quickly have a look at the agenda for today's session. So as you can see on the screen, first we'll begin with why do we need Terraform? And then we will discuss what exactly is Terraform and the advantages of Terraform. Next, we will have a look at the working or the architecture part of Terraform. And we will also discuss an example wherein I'll show you how Terraform solves the previous problems. And finally, we will conclude this session with a demo part wherein we'll start everything from scratch, right from the installation process to running a script of Terraform. So the first point here is why do we need Terraform? So traditionally, managing IT infrastructure was a manual process. People would physically put servers in place and then configure them. Applications would be deployed only after the machines were configured to the correct settings required by the operating system and the applications. So obviously, this manual process has a few problems such as higher costs, scalability, availability, and inconsistency. So in order to achieve faster deployments, organizations treat infrastructure just like software. That is, they treat them as code that can be managed with the same tools and processes software developers use, such as the version control, continuous integration, code review, and automated testing. So with these, you can make the infrastructure changes more easily, rapidly, safely, and reliably. So in simple words, you can write code to provision your infrastructure just like you write code to develop the application. So this is the core idea behind the term known as infrastructure as code. Infrastructure as code is the foundation on which the entire DevOps has been built. Okay, so now you must be wondering what is infrastructure as code. So infrastructure as code is the process of managing and provisioning computer data centers through machine readable definition files rather than using physical hardware configuration or interactive configuration tools. So the IT infrastructure managed by this comprises of both the physical equipments such as bare metal servers as well as the virtual machines and the associated configuration resources. So this was a quick definition of infrastructure as code. So now you must be wondering, how does infrastructure as code work? Okay, so as far as infrastructure as code tools are concerned, so there are basically two categories here. The first category is that of imperative, and the second category is that of declarative. So what happens in the imperative approach? Here you give orders to the tool. So here you define a sequence of commands or instructions so that the infrastructure can reach the final results. And in the declarative approach, you declare the desired outcome. Okay, so instead of outlining the sequence of steps the infrastructure needs to reach the final result, the declarative approach shows what the final result should look like. So, and that is basically the idea of Terraform. So, Terraform follows a declarative approach rather than an imperative approach. Okay, so let's just move ahead and discuss the main question of this session. What is Terraform? So, Terraform is a tool for building, changing, and versioning infrastructure safely and efficiently. Terraform can help with multi cloud by having one workflow for all the clouds. The infrastructure Terraform manages can be hosted on public clouds like AWS, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud Platform, or on premises in private clouds such as VMware vSphere, OpenStack, or CloudStack. So Terraform treats infrastructure as code, as discussed earlier. So you never have to worry about the infrastructure drifting away from its desired configuration. So Terraform users define and enforce infrastructure configurations by using JSON-like configuration language called the HCL. So HCL stands for HashiCorp Configuration Language. Okay, so HashiCorp is the company which founded the tool called Terraform. Okay, so HCL's simple syntax makes it easy for DevOps teams to provision and re-provision the infrastructure across multiple cloud and on-premises data centers. Okay, so this was a quick overview of what exactly is Terraform. Okay, and now the next point of this session is advantages of Terraform. So why at all should we use Terraform? Okay, So the first point here is the speed. So Terraform enables you for quickly setting up the complete infrastructure by running a simple script. You can do that for every environment from development to production, passing through staging, QA, and so on. So it can make the entire software development life cycle smoother than before. Okay, so this was the first highlight or the first advantage of using Terraform. The next point here is the accountability. So this point is obvious. Since you can version Terraform configuration files like any other source file, you have the full traceability of the changes each configuration undergoes. Okay, so now you need not worry about who did what and when. The third point here is the consistency. Manual processes can sometimes result in mistakes. Manual infrastructure management will result in discrepancies. So no matter how hard you try them. So Terraform solves that problem by having configuration files themselves being the single source of truth. That way, you guarantee the same configurations will be deployed over and over without any discrepancies. So that is the highlight feature of Terraform, that is consistency. The next point here is the efficiency. So by employing Terraform, you can deploy your infrastructure architectures in many stages. So that makes the whole software development lifecycle more efficient, and this raises the team productivity levels to greater heights. So you could have programmers using Terraform to create and launch sandbox environments, and this allows them to develop in isolation and that too with uttermost safety. So the same would be true for QA professionals as well, who can have perfect copies of the production environments in which they run their test cases. And finally, when it's the deployment time, you can push both the infrastructure and the code to production in a single step. So this was all about the efficiency of Terraform. And the last point here is the lower cost. So one of the main benefits of Terraform is the lowering of the costs of the infrastructure management. So by employing cloud computing along with Terraform, you drastically reduce your costs. So that's because you won't have to spend money on hardware, hiring people to operate them, and build or rent physical space to store the equipments. So these were the advantages of using Terraform. So now let's just move ahead and discuss the next point here, which is how does Terraform work? So Terraform allows user to define their entire infrastructure simply by using configuration files and version control. When a command is given to deploy and run a server, a database, a load balancer, Terraform parses the code and translates it into an application programming interface, which is the API. When a command is given to deploy and run a server, a database, a load balancer, Terraform passes the code and translate it into an API call to the resource provider. Because Terraform is open source, developers are always able to extend the tool's usefulness by writing new plugins or compiling different versions of existing plugins. So Terraform has two main components. The first one is the Terraform core and the second part is the Terraform plugins. So Terraform core oversees the reading and the interpolation of resource plan executions, resource graphs, state management features, and configuration files. So core is composed of compiled binaries written in the Go programming language. Each compiled binary acts as a command line interface for communicating with plugins through remote procedure calls, or you can call them RPCs. And if you talk about Terraform plugins, so they are responsible for defining the resources for specific services. So this includes authentication of the infrastructure providers and initializing the libraries that are used to make the API calls. So Terraform plugins are written in Go as executable binaries that can be either used as a specific service or as a provisioner. This is the overall execution of Terraform. So here, as you can see, this is the TF configuration file or the Terraform configuration file. Here you write the source code, or you can say a few lines of code wherein you define what are the resources that you want. And next component here is the state. So state keeps a track of what exactly are you trying to achieve. State is nothing but the current state of your configuration and the desired outcome of your configuration file. Okay, so state basically calculates the difference of initial and the final state. So these two files act as input to the core. So what core does is it compares these two files and then it gives you the desired output by working with the providers. So as you can see here, providers are various service providers, or you can say cloud computing providers like AWS, Azure, Google Cloud Platform, and so on. So core and service providers give you all of these requirements that you have. So now we will discuss the Terraform example, like how do you use Terraform in real world. Okay, so let's say you have a application, you have developed an application and you want to set up the infrastructure which is required to deploy the application. Okay, so let's just say you want multiple servers for deploying the various components of the application. Okay, so as you can see here, we have 3 servers where we want to deploy the various components of this application. And now you want to use Docker containers as well, and you want to use a database container on this server. And you have decided that you will use AWS as a platform to build your whole infrastructure. What you will do now is you will go to first, you will log into AWS, you'll sign up on AWS, and then you will create an EC2 instance, which is basically the server instances. Okay, so with respect to this example, here you will create 3 server instances, 3 EC2 instances. Okay, and then you will install Docker on them. If at all you have any other requirements apart from Docker, you can install those as well on those EC2 instances. So here what you are doing is you are basically doing 2 steps. First, you are creating all those instances, the EC2 instances, installing Docker on them, and then adding database containers and so on. So once this infrastructure is set up on AWS, then you have another task of deploying the application on those various servers. So here you are doing 2 tasks. Okay, so with Terraform, you don't have to do 2 separate tasks. Okay, with Terraform, you just have to write the configuration files and you have to execute a few commands to run that file. That's it. So it's that easy to use Terraform for provisioning the infrastructure that is required to deploy your application. Okay, so let's just say you have your entire setup ready and you have deployed your application and your application is running smoothly on those servers. So now you have one more requirement. Okay, so say for example, your application now you have added a few more features on your applications and you need few more servers to deploy the new features of the application. So what you do is you now, as you can see on the screen, you need 3 more servers. So now you have to add many more services to these 3 servers. Say for example, containers, databases, an S3 bucket, and so on. Okay, so there are many AWS services available on AWS portal. We will see them in the demo part. Okay, so what you do is, so you don't have to change anything now. In the first step, you had written a script for these 3 servers, right? So you just have to modify that script and you have to add a few lines of code to add these 3 new servers. Okay, now you just have to modify the script, you have to save it, and you just have to execute a few commands. So it's that simple to modify the infrastructure. Now, with adding 3 servers, you have actually scaled up the infrastructure. Okay, so scaling up and scaling down is also very easily done by using Terraform. So this is the biggest advantage of using Terraform. Okay, and all of these changes can be done in a span of few minutes, like we will see in the demo part of this session. Okay, I'll show you how we will do it. So I hope you are now clear with the example that we just discussed, and you now have a clear idea of how Terraform exactly works. Okay, so now let us just move to the main part of this session, which is the demo part. So here we will start with installation of Terraform on Windows as well as Linux platforms. And then I'll show you how do you write a configuration file and the commands to run that configuration file. First, we will download it for Linux. Okay. So download Terraform. If you Google search this, so let's click on the first link and okay. So as you can see here, guys, first of all, this is the Ubuntu platform that I'm using on my Windows 10. So I've downloaded it on my system. Okay. So I have to download Terraform for this Ubuntu. Okay. So this Linux 64-bit, if you click on this link and copy the link address. So here, what you have to write is you have to write wget and you have to just paste the link that you copied in the previous step. Okay, so once you do that, you hit enter. Okay, so as you can see here, we have downloaded this zip file for Terraform. And to unzip the zip file, what you do is you write unzip space the name of the file. Okay, so this is the name of the file. So you just copy the name and paste it over here and hit enter. Okay, so as you can see here, the file has been unzipped. So let's just move this. Let's just verify this whether our file has been unzipped. So as you can see here, this was the zip file and this is the unzip file, Terraform. Okay, so now what we will do is we will just move it to some other location from here. Okay, so let's just say sudo mv Terraform to, let's just say you have to move it to user local bin. Okay, so let me type password. Okay, so we have moved it to this location, user local bin. Okay, so just to verify whether our file has been successfully unzipped, what we'll do is we'll check the version of the Terraform. Okay, so as you can see here, it says version 1.0.1. Okay, so it means everything is good. So as you can see here, we have this version 1.0.1 of Terraform. Okay, so Terraform has been installed on Linux. So what you can do now here is, if you're using a Linux operating system, you just have to create a directory. You have to write a configuration file wherein you will mention whatever resources or the services that you want. Okay, like spinning up a server, an EC2 instance, and a database or an S3 bucket. So whatever you want, you can write them in the configuration file, and you just have to run a few commands to execute those services. Okay, so it's that simple. So as you can see here, Linux has been installed on the system. Okay, now what we'll do is we'll install the same on Windows. Okay, so what you have to do is you have to download the 32-bit or 64-bit, whatever that you want as per your operating system. Download it on your system. So after that, what you have to do is you have to move that downloaded file. I repeat. So what you have to do is you have to move it to a specific location in the C drive. Okay, so it would be good if you move it to program files. Okay, so here, as you can see, I have created a folder, and inside that we have the downloaded Terraform file. Okay, so now what you have to do, you have to just copy this location, C program files, Terraform, and you have to add it to the list of environment variables. Okay, so set the environment variables. What you have to do is click on this Windows icon here and type environment. So you get this environment variables. Okay, here you have to click on environment variables. And if you have a look at those system variables, okay, so this is the variable called path. Okay, so now you have to click on that path and click on edit. Okay, so as you can see here, I've already added C program files. You have to click on new and add this line. Just click on new and paste that line here, C program files, Terraform. Okay, so this way you have added it to the list of environment variables. You have added Terraform to the list of environment variables. Okay, So just click on OK, OK, and you're done. Okay. So now just to check the version of Terraform, what you have to do, you have to open the command prompt on Windows. Okay. You can also use PowerShell if you want. Okay. So I'm using command prompt here. Okay. So on Windows, what you have to type, Terraform hyphen version. Okay. So as you can see here, it says version 1.0.1. So it means you can now use Terraform on your Windows operating system. So once you know that Terraform has been installed on your system successfully, what you do is you have to create a directory here. Okay. So let's just say you can name whatever you want. So my Terraform. Okay. So now let us just navigate to this directory. Okay. And here you have to create a configuration file. Okay. So in Terraform, the configuration file has the extension .tf. Okay. So let's just create type null greater than sign, and you have to name the file. Okay. So let's just say my file .tf. Okay. So let's just go to our desktop. And as you can see here, we have created this my Terraform. And here we have this file, my file. Okay. So simply edit this file. And now we will write instructions here. Okay. So we will write some code, which will be basically to provision the infrastructure that we want. Okay. So before moving ahead, I want you guys to have a AWS account. Okay. So you must first sign up to AWS. You have to create a free tier account on AWS. Okay. So in this demo, I'm showing you with AWS, whatever infrastructure that we are provisioning. Okay. So I've already created a free tier account on AWS. Okay. So once you do that, you will be able to log in. Okay. So let me just enter my, okay. So type your username to enter your password. So as you can see here, I've logged into my AWS account. Okay. So, and the region, if you want, you can select here Asia Pacific, Mumbai, which is AP South 1, or you can select whatever you want as per your convenience. Okay. So now what we will do is we will create a user here, and because we want the details of the user in that, and we will create a server. Like basically, we will create an EC2 instance using just a few lines of code in the Terraform configuration file. Okay. So to create a user, what you have to do is in the search, you have to type IAM. Okay. So if you click on this IAM, you'll be directed to. So as you can see here now, we do not have any users, and we'll have to create one new user. Okay. So you can name the user whatever you want. So let's say, for example, Arvind. And if you see the access type here, we'll just check this box, programmatic access. Okay. And you do not have to check this as of now. AWS management console access, we don't want it. Okay. So now here click on next permissions, and here click on attach existing policies directly. And as of now, we'll just grant this access, which is the, or you can say we will click on this checkbox which says policy name administrator access. Okay, next click on tags, and you have to add the key. You can add it whatever you want. So let's say, for example, demo key, and value is totally optional, so you can leave it blank and click on here next, which is review. Okay, so these are the details of the user. If you find them all good, click on create user. Okay, so as you can see here, we have created this user Arvind, which has this access key, ID, and secret key. So why do we need this access key and secret key? I'll show you. Okay, so as of now, just click on this download.csv file. Okay, so to create a user and to add an EC2 instance using AWS, so what you have to type, Terraform AWS provider. You have to search on Google. Okay, so this is the first link that you have, registry.terraform.io. Okay, so if you scroll down, okay, so you have to, if you scroll down a bit, you will get this provider AWS, this 4 lines of code. Just have to copy it and you have to paste it in the file that we created in the directory, my file. Okay, so as you can see here, it says access key and secret key. So this belongs to a particular user. We just created a user and we downloaded the .csv file of that user. Okay, so for that user, we have, if you open that CSV file, we have this access key ID and secret access key. Okay, so we just have to copy this, both of these things here. Just click copy and you have to paste it here. Okay, once you copy the access key ID, you also have to copy secret access key and you have to paste it here. Okay, and as far as region is concerned, as of now we are using Asia Pacific South 1. Okay, and provider is AWS. So now since we have added this provider AWS, okay, so we also have to add an EC2 instance here. So to add an instance, EC2 instance, what we have to do is you have to Google search AWS EC2 instance Terraform and just click on the first link. Okay, so once you do that, you just have to scroll a bit. Okay, and you have to copy these lines. Okay, these 3 lines. Okay, so once you do that, what you have to do is you have to just paste it over here. So this hash, let's just remove this. Okay, and now instead of this, you can write whatever you want here. So my EC2 AWS instance. Okay, and for this AMI part, what you have to do is you have to go to the AWS, type EC2 here. Let's just click on this, and you can see there are no instances running as of now. So we do not wish to launch it manually. So Terraform will do it for us. Okay, we just want this part, AMI part. Okay, so this first server that is present here, Amazon Linux free tier eligible. Just want to copy this part, AMI, and we will paste it here. Okay, and just to end this, you have to add a curly brace. Okay, so just save this file. Okay, so as you can see, we have added this provider AWS region, access key, secret key for the user. We just created one user, and this is for the EC2 instance. Okay, so let's just save this file. Okay, let me just open my command prompt. Okay, so guys, we have our configuration file in place, and now we are good to go. So the first command that we will use here is the init command. So this initializes the script. Okay, so for that you have to type terraform init. Okay, so let's just see what happens now. Okay, so as you can see here, the message we have got, Terraform has been successfully initialized. Okay, so once it is initialized, the next command is plan. Okay, so for that, what you have to type Terraform plan. Okay, so this step will plan what the resources that we want. Okay, so Terraform will plan according to that. Okay, so just type Terraform plan and hit enter. So this might take a few seconds. Okay, so here it says one to add. Okay, so since we have added one EC2 server, so it is planning to add this. Okay, we have nothing to change and we have nothing to destroy. Okay, so our previous step was successful. And now let's just execute the command Terraform apply. We will apply whatever we have planned earlier. Okay, so this might also take a few seconds here and there. Okay, so now it says, do you want to perform these actions? Type yes. Okay, so as you can see here, it is displaying AWS instance, my EC2 creating. So let's just wait for a few seconds. Okay, so apply has been completed. We have added one resources, zero changed, zero destroyed. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll go to this AWS homepage and we will click on EC2. Okay, so as you can see here, previously there were zero instances running, and now if you click on instances, we have one instance running. Okay, so this is the our instance. The zone is AP South 1. Okay, so this instance has been created. Okay, so I hope you guys are understanding what we just created. We didn't create everything manually here. So we didn't go to AWS and we created one server and all those things. So as you can see here, this EC2 instance has been created. And now what we will do in this directory that we have over here, my file. Okay, so guys, as you can see here, one file has been created, terraform.tf state. Okay, so as we discussed earlier, this is the state. This is one of the inputs that the core fetches from the user and which compares the current state and the desired state. Okay, and now we have this my file. Let's just try to edit and add few more things over here. Okay, now what we'll do is we'll try to add one S3 bucket over here. Okay, so for that, what we have to Google search AWS S3 Terraform. Okay, if you click on the first link, okay, so this example usage, you have to copy these lines and you have to paste it over here. Okay, so resource AWS S3 bucket, and you can name it whatever you want, dummy bucket. Okay, so bucket, you can edit this part as well. My first TF bucket, ACL, let it be private. As of now, we don't want it. And instead of my bucket, let's just keep to, okay, let's just keep it to my bucket only, but we just change the case. Okay, so it doesn't matter that much. And the environment, as you can see here, it's dev. Okay, so you can change it if you want, or you can keep it dev. Okay, let's just save the file. Okay, and one more thing that we will do here is we'll add one relational database. Okay, so AWS RDS Terraform. If you click that, this is the first link. And okay, so basic usage, you have to copy these lines. You have to just paste it over here. Okay, so for the engine version actually, so the latest version I think is 8.0.25. Okay, and you can name it whatever you want. So instead of default, you can type dummy db name, you can write Arvind db or whatever you want, username, password, default, and instead of 5.7, let's just write 8.0. Okay, and skip final snapshot to true. Okay, so let's just keep everything to default. Versioning, which is enabled true. Okay, so you have to write this versioning inside these curly braces, you have to write enable true. Okay, so this will help us to keep a track of all the versions that we have for Amazon S3 bucket. Okay, so let me just cross check whether we have written everything correctly. So these two things were in place from the previous step, and we have added these two resources here. Okay, so one is the MySQL database and one is the Amazon S3 bucket. Okay, so let me underscore bucket. Here we have my first bucket, my underscore bucket, and the environment is dev. Okay, so everything looks good. Let's just save this file. Let me close this and let me just open my terminal. Okay, so now what we will do, we will use Terraform init. Okay, so let's just see what happens now. Okay, so Terraform has been successfully initiated. I repeat, I repeat. So Terraform has been successfully initialized. Okay, so now what we have, Terraform plan. Okay, so let's see what happens now. Okay, so it says to add a 0 to change and 0 to destroy. So since we have added S3 bucket and a database, a MySQL database, so it says to add. So now what we have, Terraform apply. Hit enter. Now let's see what happens. So when it says enter a value, let's enter YES, yes. So guys, as you can see here, we have applied the resources. We have got the success message. Okay, and now what we will do, we'll just go and cross check there. Okay, so here as you can see, we do not have any buckets, but if you just refresh this, okay, so as you can see here, this bucket has been created. My first Terraform S3 bucket. We have just created this bucket. And apart from this, what we created a database. Okay, so if you click on RDS, now you can search it from here as well, this search console. Okay, so you can see here the DB instance 1 out of 20. So one instance has been created. Okay, so as you can see here, one instance is available. Okay, so we have just created this instance over here, a database instance, an S3 bucket, an EC2 server, and we created the user before that. Okay, so I hope you guys have now understood whatever we're trying to execute here. You just have to write whatever that you want for your application, for your application deployment. I mean, whatever resources or whatever things that you want from AWS, you can just write it in that script and you have to just execute that commands from here, from the command prompt. Okay. And the commands are also very simple. First, you initialize, then you plan, then you apply. Okay. And now you're done with everything. Your application has been deployed and you want to close everything. Like that is, you want to destroy the resources. So for that, the command is very simple. Just have to type Terraform destroy. Okay. So once you hit enter, everything that you have created till now will be destroyed. Okay. So here it says 3 to destroy. Okay. So let me type yes. Okay. So history bucket has been destroyed. So 2 more are remaining. One is EC2 instance and database instance. Okay. So it might take a few seconds. So let's see how far it goes. Okay. So till then, guys, this was the demo part. Like we have almost finished the demo. Like after this, the session will be over. But I want to know whether you guys have really understood or not. Please let us know in the comment section. If you're not getting anything, if there is an error in executing any particular step or writing the configuration file, please do let us know in the comment section and we will resolve all of your queries. Okay. So let's just wait now. Okay. So as you can see here, my EC2 instance has been destructed after 41 seconds. Okay. So only the database instance is still taking time. EC2 was the quickest. Which was the quickest? Destroyed in 1 second only. Now we are waiting for the destruction of database instance. Okay. So let's see how far it goes. Okay. So guys, as you can see here, destruction completed after 4 minutes, 29 seconds. I think that was a bit too long. Okay. But we have successfully destroyed 3 resources. Okay. So since we no longer needed them, we destroyed them. Okay. And that is sensible because, we are eligible only for, as of now, free tier account of AWS. Okay. So let's just not spend any amount on the free tier account of AWS. Okay. So with this, we have come to the end of this session on Terraform. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this session and you have understood whatever we have covered here. If you have any queries related to this session or any of the commands or in the demo part or whatever you want, you can write them in the comments box. Okay. My team is here to help you with all your doubts and queries. So thank you so much for being with us and have a good day.